Hi, it's Emily Grace from Emily Grace Productions, and welcome back to this second part video of the Think Like a Producer, Act for a Living series. Now, if you missed the first video, make sure you go back and check it out while it's still going to be available online. And if you're ready to go, let's jump in with part two of this series. So, we talked last video a lot about the differences between thinking like an actor versus thinking like a producer. So now that you've got your producer's hat on, let's take this work a little bit further. So when it comes to your acting career, one of the things that is going to help you create momentum is to get really focused. And what I like to talk to my clients about is thinking about what is your happy ending, right? Every movie has an ending. Sometimes it's a happy ending, sometimes it's not a happy ending. But when it comes to your career results, I'm going to wager a guess that you are looking for a happy ending. So the only way for you to get a happy ending is to know what that is going to look like. Where is your career heading? And what I recommend is that you really take some time going inward, listening to that little voice inside of you that compelled you to become an actor, that is urging you to create, and really start to get clear about what you want your career to look like. Now, the frame of time that I recommend that people use is 3 years from now. What do you want your career to look like? What do you want to be working on specifically? Is it movie, film, TV, theater, commercials? Specifically, what do you want to be working on? And one of the reasons that I use 3 years is I learned it from a great book by Cameron Herold. The book is called Double Double, and he's talking about how to double your business in 3 years or less. You, as an actor, of course, are a business owner, so the principle certainly applies to you. And the way that Cameron Herold puts it is you want to have one foot firmly in the present, what is actually going on in your career right now, and then you're going to lean forward into the future. Now, 3 years is far enough from now that you can challenge yourself, you can start to think big, but it isn't so far into the future that it doesn't feel real. If you were looking 10 years into the future, the steps between your paces would be so far apart you'd probably topple over. So, happy ending. Where do you want your career to be 3 years from now? Challenge yourself, but don't challenge yourself so much that you don't even believe it could happen. You must have a firm belief that you can achieve your goals, even if you don't know exactly how you're going to do it. So, 3 years from now, what do you want your career to look like? Now that you know where the career is heading, this takes you to a very valuable step that most actors have never been taught. It has to do with business and nothing to do with craft, but it can really help you start to make something that's very difficult for actors, which is critical decisions in terms of creating a strategy to get that 3-year goal. This is what I like to call measuring your assets and your liabilities. Now, any successful business owner is going to know their assets, what is an advantage to them, what is working, what do they have in their arsenal that if they continue to do more of will create more advantages for them. These are assets. Assets are good. And they will also know their liabilities. Where are the weak spots? What isn't working? What is working as a disadvantage to them? Or what do they need to fill in to have a really solid foundation? Liabilities can be a negative, but the opportunity is always there for you to turn that negative into a positive. And the only way that you can do this is to be aware of what they are in the first place. Now that you know where you want to be 3 years from now, it's time for you to take a look at your acting career and see what do you have already that's working in your favor? These would be a list of your assets. So just as an example, let's say you want to become a series regular on a sitcom. That's your 3-year goal from now. And some of the assets that you may have that are working for you are you may be a union member already, so that's something that's already taken care of that's going to work in your favor. You may already have an agent, so you have someone on your team that's submitting you for auditions. You may have a really high callback rate for comedy, so your craft is in a great place. Those would be your assets. And then what you need to do is take a look at your liabilities. And again, you want to do this list as it relates to where you want your career to end up. It's not an arbitrary list, right? You may not have experience doing Shakespeare, but you might not need it depending on whatever your 3-year goals are. So, we've covered the assets if your hypothetical goal is to be a series regular. Now let's take a look at some of the liabilities. Maybe you aren't auditioning that often. Even though your callback rate is high, maybe you aren't being sent out often enough for you to build your resume, build up your credits so you can get to the level of series regular, right? So lack of auditions or opportunity might be a liability of yours. You may not have that many relationships in the sitcom world. Maybe producers, directors, casting directors, showrunners, people who are actively hiring for sitcoms. So there may be something lacking in your relationships that you really need to take a look at. Now let's talk about some possible liabilities when it comes to that 3-year goal of booking a series regular. Now again, this is a hypothetical example, so it's really important for you to do that work of going inward to find out what resonates for you. What are your specific goals? Not the goals someone else told you you should have, not because someone told you you'd be great for commercials, but you don't really care about commercials. But these are the true goals that come from inside of you, and that is going to be different for every single one of us. So let's take a look at what some of the liabilities might be for this hypothetical example. Well, you may have a high callback rate, but you don't get out to audition that much, right? That would be a liability. The less you audition, the less likely you are to book. It's a numbers game. So you may need to up your number of auditions and opportunities. You may not have really strong relationships with people who are hiring for sitcom, right? You may have really good relationships with indie film casting directors, even comedic films, but if you're lacking in the relationship department when it comes specifically to sitcoms, that would be a liability or something that is standing in the way of you achieving that 3-year goal. What else could be a possible liability? Well, you may just not be that well known. Maybe you don't have that many television credits. So when those auditions do come along, your agent isn't able to get you in the room. So one of the things that you might need to address is building up specifically television credits. Or possibly you have a reel, but it doesn't show off your comedic chops. So adding some comedic scenes to that reel could be something that you need to add to your to-do list. So again, assets and liabilities, you want to start to get clear on them as they relate to where your career is going, as they relate to that 3-year goal. Once you know the direction of your career and you are willing to look at your career with a critical eye to see what's working, what are your assets, so you can do more of those, and to also see what are your liabilities, what are the disadvantages, what's missing, what skill set or credits do you need to work on to help you get to where it is that you're going. This puts you in the position to be able to make the important decisions on where to put your focus. And if you listen to the previous video that came before this one, you can see how really getting clear on the 3-year goal, Becoming aware of your assets and liabilities is the cure to spaghetti syndrome, right? Where you're putting your energy here, there, and everywhere, but you're not moving in a forward direction. When you can make those kinds of critical decisions on what liability you need to focus on right now that's going to help you move where you want to go, then you can start putting your energy where it's actually going to pay off for you, plant some seeds for the future, as well as create some career momentum. Now, obviously, there's a lot more to this topic, so if you want some more help on how you can turn on a liability into an asset, what strategic planning is going to look like so you're putting your energy in the right place, definitely make sure that you join me for my free webinar, Think Like a Producer, Act for a Living. It's happening Thursday, September 22nd. All you have to do is register. There's a form right here on this page. If you have already registered, don't worry, you don't have to do it again. Just check your email for the details of how to join the webinar. And I really look forward to helping you take this work even further. So make sure you sign up if you haven't already, and I will speak to you live Thursday, September 22nd.